This Sunday is the fourth Sunday of Lent in Year B. The first reading this Sunday is from the book known as 2nd Chronicles. The books 1st and 2nd Chronicles are just one book in the Hebrew Bible. In Christian Bibles, the book is split into two parts because originally the book was written on scrolls and it was too big to fit on one scroll. This is the only Sunday Mass to include a reading from Chronicles in any year, A, B or C. The Chronicles are contained within the second part of the Old Testament, the historical books part, that we spoke about briefly on the 5th Sunday of Ordinary Time this year. But Chronicles is the last book of the Hebrew Bible. About 580 years before Jesus, Jerusalem was captured by the king of Babylon. Babylon was an ancient city in what is now Iraq. Many Israelites were taken captive. This event was known as the Babylonian exile. The temple at Jerusalem, traditionally believed to have been built by King Solomon about 950 years before Jesus, was completely destroyed. About 40 years after the Babylonian exile, Babylon itself was captured by Cyrus, king of Persia, the area now known as Iran. Cyrus ultimately dominated every nation known to him. He declared himself king of the four corners of the world. His empire is widely regarded as the world's first superpower. Cyrus had a policy of respecting the customs of the people in the lands he conquered. He allowed the Israelites captured by Babylon to return to Jerusalem. The book of Chronicles was written by an unknown person at some stage after that. Chronicles is a recap of Jewish history to that point. The first 9 chapters of the book list all the main characters from the Old Testament in something of a family tree, and much of Chronicles is a repeat of earlier books. This Sunday's reading from Chronicles is the last part of the book, so this Sunday we hear the last words in the Hebrew Bible. And it is important to understand that, particularly in Hebrew, the very last sentence is incomplete. What we hear is this quote from Cyrus: "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth. He has ordered me to build him a temple in Jerusalem, in Judah. Whoever there is among you of all his people, may his God be with him. Let him go up." And they are the last words of the Hebrew Bible, looking forward to the rebuilding of the temple. And the incomplete sentence emphasizes that there is something more to come. The second reading this Sunday is from the letter of St. Paul to the Ephesians. Traditionally believed to have been written by St. Paul while in prison in Rome, it was more likely written by one of his disciples. The Ephesians were the people of Ephesus, an ancient Greek city in what is now known as Turkey. At the time of Jesus and at the time of Paul's letter, it was part of the Roman Empire. In St. Paul's letter to the Ephesians, he talks about the church, not being a temple, but being a group of people living by the example of Jesus. In the second reading this Sunday, Paul says, "We are God's work of art." The gospel this Sunday is again from John. Jesus says to a man named Nicodemus that the Son of Man must be lifted up as Moses lifted up the serpent in the desert. Jesus is referring to an incident described in the book of Numbers, one of the books of Moses. The Israelites were affected by a plague of poisonous snakes after leaving Egypt. God tells Moses to make a poisonous snake and put it on a pole. Moses makes a snake out of bronze, puts it on a pole, and whenever a snake bit someone, that person would look at the bronze snake and live. What is happening in his conversation with Nicodemus is that Jesus is predicting his crucifixion. What we didn't hear this Sunday is that Nicodemus has come to talk to Jesus at night, presumably so that no one would know. That is, he has come to Jesus in the darkness, or at least out of the darkness. So it must have been food for thought for Nicodemus when Jesus says to him that God will judge people by whether they prefer darkness to the light.